wipe or a hydrogen peroxide wipe would work well, in killing microorganisms in, the surface. And again, you mentioned RSV and these other viruses, these other microorganisms that are not as hard to kill as C. diff. There are other products out there like hydrogen peroxide and, or VersaSure, which is a quaternary. So these are also as effective on those microorganisms. And that's something that you would use as a daily cleaner because you don't want to use something like bleach, or you can, because bleach is something that kills most microorganisms, especially C. diff, which is the hardest to kill.
Sure.
But if you want to go with something that's not as corrosive, you have other options. And, working with facilities like yourself, there's, educating the staff, like the hydrogen peroxide is great in an operating room because it has a 1-minute contact time and it kills 42 microorganisms in a minute. So you want that room to be turned over and make sure that those patients are safe. So killing, using a hydrogen peroxide wipe, being able to remove that blood and killing those microorganisms and keeping those patients safe in an OR environment is super important too.
I'm glad you brought that up because, there's so many topics that we can cover, but we have such a short amount of time. And,
sure.
we because we're so busy, Deanne and I, we do only record, once a week we're in the studio. But I want to talk about a different service that has not come up yet that is in across every single acute care environment, and that is the cubicle curtain. So how does the Total 360, is that effective for cubicle curtain cleaning? So for those of us that have cubicle curtains and, after a isolation discharge, all of us are taking them down and laundering them or sending them out for cleaning. And that's a lot of work for our frontline team members, and that could cause delay in room turnaround time. So talk to us about that.
Yeah, so in the beginning of our conversation, I did say that there are microorganisms on soft surfaces. So we, prior to the electrostatic system, we have our hydrogen peroxide spray, which does have a soft surface claim. So what it does, it actually kills those microorganisms on like a curtain. For instance, like the biggest thing that we found was a study that was done by Dr. Rutala, which people may or may not know, but he's a very famous infectious disease doctor. And he actually did a study that showed that those privacy curtains do hold these microorganisms that may infect the patient, right? So what does a healthcare worker do? They put the gloves on. The doctor says, close the curtain. They close the curtain with the gloves on, and they go right to the patient. But no one knew that that actual privacy curtain does have microorganisms on it. So with our hydrogen peroxide spray, you actually spray that actual grab area where they usually grab, and it actually reduces those pathogens by 98%. So it really kind of is mind-blowing that you could wash that privacy curtain, and within a week, those privacy curtains are already infected with microorganisms. So spray like hydrogen peroxide could be used as a daily thing, but obviously if that patient's in isolation, you're going to remove that. But I know that that's one of the biggest challenges in a hospitals are these curtains. It's very time consuming. But if you use something like a hydrogen peroxide spray and just spray it on the surface, within 30 seconds, you remove with those microorganisms. I'm not going to say it's all, but for the most part, you will reduce that load. And then with our electrostatic sprayer, we do have a soft surface claim for our quaternary. So you could spray that down with the electrostatic sprayer, and you have that protection. So yes.
Great.
So
good,
I hope
good
I
answer.
Answered your question. Thank you.
Of course.
And,
yeah, you did. And we're all looking for solutions that save us time, that are less work on our staff, that decrease turnover, but increase that absolutely increase safety for our patients.
Right.
Yeah.
But always, as you know, go ahead. Sorry, Dion.
I think you guys are touching on every single topic that we talked about today.
Really? It's like we were in the room with you.
I am listening at every single topic.
Yeah, well, Dion, one thing is that we absolutely have fabulous frontline team members. We talk about this all the time, Ellie. They could do our job. They could do what we do. They choose to come to work every day, and they deserve leaders that are looking into the best technology and answering their questions and hearing their concerns. So it's no secret that this is what's on the mind of leaders, but it's also on the mind of our frontline team members because they care about what they're doing. They care about their patients, and they want to make sure that when they're spending all this time and energy and doing all this physical work, that they're being effective at their job and they're doing the best job that they can. And Deanne and I talk about this all the time. And, we've had this conversation with you, and we know that you care a tremendous amount about your product and then the training that goes along with it. And that's something that we really appreciate because you don't just, order something with you, Ellie, and not get the training behind it. So that's really important. And you definitely support our teams. And, at the same time, it's a great working relationship with you.
Thank you.
I wonder something that came up, and I'm not sure, Deanne, this probably did, but often a lot of times when we bring new things in and start new services and get the new equipment in, we forget really two important things. And that is where are we going to keep it? Storage. Because we're in New York, storage is really tough. So how big is it? And then the other thing is we forget about ergonomics and safety for our team. So how much does it weigh? Because I'm assuming it's a little bit like the other spray gun technologies that we've seen, which is a backpack that the employee puts on their back. So we're concerned about their safety, and they're concerned about, what is doing this job today and putting my all into it? What is this going to look like for me 20, 30, 40 years from now?
Sure.
So aerosolization is definitely on our mind, and you talked about PPE, and so is there a PARP mask or respirator that's needed when you use it, and is it heavy?
Sure. So if you're talking about our Total 360, so we have you actually roll it, and it has a cord, and you don't actually have to put it on your back. So it's easy to roll around, and then it has a gun which you extend and you spray the surface, and you're actually not the ground, because sometimes when you put some of these backpacks, you become the ground, but the actual device is the ground because it's attached to a socket, right? So it's not heavy. It's very easy to use. And what you have to do for PPEs, put just a mask and an N95 mask and goggles for the quaternary. And after you spray it, no one really should be around. You should be by yourself in the room. And then after, you can actually re-enter the room. So what Clorox did is we really, again, like I said, we tested all of these products that go through this device, because some products, or we tested, like, let's say we tested like 15 solutions through this electrostatic. And the concern is Clorox is a very conservative company, and we make sure that safety comes first. So we wanted a product out there that you could spray and re-enter the room, right? So there's no lapse and like you have to wait 15 minutes to come into the room. But the fact is that if the employee is wearing the goggles and the N95 mask, there shouldn't be any issues other than, if it gets on your skin, nothing's going to happen. It's kind of, it's very safe to use if you're using the right precautions. And then with her sporicidal, just goggles are necessary or may be needed. And you could always wear a mask. I mean, we're all wearing masks now, right? So it's just safe to use and to protect yourself. I hope I answered your question, Liz. I hope that was.
Yeah, and I think it's a question. I know that Deanne's talked about the website, and you could easily see it, but it's just important to make sure that people are thinking of what is this technology is great today, but what is the impact of staff and users, 3, 4, 5, and even 10 years, 10 years from now.
Sure.
Deanne,
sure.
I mean, did that concern come up with the team members?
No, they were happy about the products. They love the products. Um, they rave about the peroxide. I think they love the peroxide more than they do with the Clorox product, but I try to
Sure.
remind them how important the bleach is, not the peroxide versus the Clorox product. They're both Clorox products. The bleach is versus the peroxide. So
Right.
um, they love it all.
In
So they
in
have
my
no
experience,
worries.
right? Yeah, in my experience, listen, I mean, smell is very subjective, right? And when I go and in-service the staff, whether it be in bleach and hydrogen peroxide, some people like the smell of bleach, some people don't. Some people are more affected by it. But, these products are safe to use, and they wouldn't be used if it wasn't, it wouldn't be used if it wasn't, sorry, it wouldn't be used in a hospital environment if it's not safe to use, right? But bleach has been around for hundreds of years. So, but everybody has their sensitivities. People have asthma. People have,
Yes, yeah.
a sense of smell that is stronger than some. And some people may like the smell of the hydrogen peroxide, and some people may not. But the one overall umbrella is the safety of the employees and the patients. And I think that, with these products, that's what we're achieving to do, is to keep them safe. I know that the thing with hospital disinfectants, they're never going to smell pretty. That's, again, because they're an oxidizer, and what they essentially do is you're putting a stick of dynamite on that surface when you're disinfecting, because you want to explode those little microorganisms on that surface. So I think that's what these products do, and they're never going to be like, oh my God, it smells like Misteline, or, and those are all great smelling things, but you want something that's going to be effective, especially in a hospital environment that those patients are immunocompromised, that
Well,
you want to keep safe.
smell wasn't their concern at all. It
Right.
was
Oh, okay.
they were happy with the versatility of the peroxide.
Yeah.
That it can clean multiple things. It's good on porcelain. It's good on electrical devices. And we also talked about curtains. We also talked about wiping the curtains down, the high-touched areas, if it's daily cleaning versus a discharge, because our contact discharges, we take the curtains down. So
Right.
they mentioned how, when you take it out the tub, it's very saturated. So they rub it on the high touched areas in the room.
Mm-hmm.
And it, as you mentioned, it may not remove everything, but it does a good job removing a lot of it. So
Right.
we encourage that practice during our daily cleans.
Yes. I mean, I think that, so yeah, I mean, I know that our actual wipes have a lot of liquid in them, and the whole point is because you want to achieve, again, if anyone's going to take anything out of this podcast, please just make sure that you're keeping those, like, if I could just, like, when I speak to, like, any staff member, I say, if there's one thing you're going to listen to me, is to please make sure that you're achieving that contact time, which is, the wet time, the kill time, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
But that is, out of anything that you're going to do in your job, is to please make sure that you're cleaning the high touch surfaces, which is a doorknob, the light switch, the bed, the bed rails, all of that. Just make sure that that's staying wet, because those are where people are touching the most. But the most important thing, even going back to consumer and healthcare, it's pretty much all the same, right? Just make sure that that surface is staying wet in order to kill those microorganisms.
And
Because things could
they're
be
using the correct product. So you
correct.
don't want to use, for instance, we have products that we use on electronic devices. You don't want to use that product to wipe
Right.
down a bed that a patient had C. diff. You want to make sure you stick with the bleach product and make sure it's, saturated enough for that 3-minute kill time. And if it's not wet enough, wet it again. and make sure that it's 3 minutes that that surface